All right. Hello and
Whoa.
welcome back, everybody, to the latest episode of the Divine Mind podcast. Obviously, my name is Liam or Hydrisney Keneally. Today, we have a guest who we were just saying before we got started is the fastest person to reply to me, organize a time, and then actually sit down in front of the camera to have a conversation. We have Arrrash. He's a YouTube, Twitch, and has a fairly loud voice on Twitter as well for the Halo community. Been absolutely, I can't go anywhere at the moment on any social media without seeing content from you just like lined up. So I'm really excited to kind of get to chat with you, see where your journey is, and figure out why, with Infinite coming out, am I now seeing all of your stuff, but where I haven't seen it before, right? But thanks for taking the time, man. I do appreciate like how quick we got this in and we're able to have a chat finally. So thank you so much for that.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, man, it's good that we were talking again before. The more people that I have on, the more I slowly get to recognize how to pronounce people's names when I'm reading them.
Yeah.
So I think it's a really like fun little tidbit of doing the podcast. I'm getting to know people, but I'm also learning how to pronounce their names. But so a good place that we kind of start with the podcast is have you always been a gamer and like playing Halo, or how did you come into gaming?
Yeah, so I can give you the cliff notes. We don't have to go step by step, but there are a couple kind of funny moments, so we'll kind of go through those. But yeah, as a kid, I played a ton of video games. I think the first time I did was probably like my neighbor's house, right? He went over there and I think he had an N64 or something. And I like came home and told my family or my parents, like, I need an N64. Like this is necessary. And eventually, I got one. And then eventually, I had to upgrade the N64. So I got a PS2, but that was all like offline, right? Well, I mean, online gaming for consoles really wasn't big then anyways, especially on N64. And PlayStation 2 had online capability, but I didn't know anyone personally that used it back in the day, although I now understand there was a port. Yeah. But I still never talked to someone that actually did it.
Yeah. I think PS3 was the first like time that I ever started thinking.
Yeah. So kind of funny. What kind of happened there is, so I saved up like a bunch of chore money over a year or whatever, and I was gonna buy a PlayStation 3. And this was when I was in like middle school. And I went to the GameStop at the mall to buy the PS3 because this was Xbox 360 had come out about a year ago, and the PS3 had come out like within the past few months. I want to say, I don't remember the exact time frame, but I remember 360 had already been out for a while because it came out first, and the PlayStation 3 was still relatively new. And I went in to buy the PlayStation 3 and they were sold out. And for whatever reason, the worker, he basically just convinced me like, yeah, I probably wouldn't get that anyways because it still has some issues, but you could get an Xbox if you want. And for whatever reason, I was like, you know what? Let's do it. So I bought a 360. It came with Call of Duty 3, and I think that was it. And I think I bought a sports game. And so like I was just playing those, and I was like, honestly, this kind of stinks. Like Call of Duty 3, no offense to anyone that's a huge fan of Call of Duty 3, but like you play through the campaign once, you're kind of done. And then I didn't have Xbox Live at the time, so I was like, this is kind of whatever. The sports games, like, the graphics were a little bit improved, but I'd been playing sports games on PlayStation 2 for like as long as I had one. So I was like, this isn't really all that great. But then I ended up getting GameFly. If you ever, I don't know if you guys had that. It was basically this. It was the service that was the Netflix equivalent back when Netflix used to mail you DVDs.
Okay.
So you could sign up for GameFly. I don't know if it still exists, but you could sign up for GameFly and you paid a monthly fee. And at the time, I think it was like 15 or $20. So relatively affordable. And you could have them mail you like 1 or 2 or 3 games at a time, depending on your plan subscription. So I got one of those so they could like mail me different games. Cause I was like, well, this kind of sucks. Like I don't have a ton of money to buy new games all the time, but obviously like the games that I have, they aren't that fun. But so I got that and I was just playing random stuff. And then I was like talking to one of my friends at school, and he's like, well, have you tried Xbox Live? And I was like, I don't know what that is, so no.
Yeah.
And eventually he kind of explained it, and like explained it was like really fun, but then you had to have that stupid can I cuss? Sorry.
Yeah, you can say whatever the fuck you want.
I'll try and keep keep it to a minimum. But you had to have that adapter, the wireless adapter that plugged into the back of the 360 that cost like another $100.
Yeah.
And so I had to save up and I bought one of those. And like, of course, my Wi-Fi was terrible. So I was using like my neighbor's Wi-Fi. And so I finally played Xbox Live. And I remember the first Xbox Live game that I really got into was the first Saints Row. And
Okay.
it had this weird like gang system where you could create a gang with like your friends and you could do these ranked matches, and depending on how, if you won or lost, you know, your gang would get, there was like a leaderboard, right? It was super cheesable because you could like, if you like left games before they ended, they didn't count as a loss and all this stuff. So it was super exploitable. But it was like the first time I got into anything that was even like relatively competitive. I mean, it wasn't, but
Yeah. I just
so I played that, and then eventually, like at this point, I hadn't played any Halo. But I I I played other random games from there on, like going, because this was probably like 2005, 2006. You know, I just played different stuff. I remember I played like a decent amount of one of the old Rainbow Sixes, like Rainbow Six Vegas. I played that one a lot. Played a decent amount of Gears of War, because I think that came out before Halo 3, right?
Yeah.
And then eventually, you know, Halo 3 was coming out in like 2 or 3 months. And I really, by that point, I think I had played Halo 2 maybe like at a friend's house once or something. But
Yeah.
it wasn't a franchise I was into, but everyone at school was hyped for it and everyone was buying it. And like all my friends that I played with online were like, yo, we're like, are you getting Halo 3? And I was like, oh, I don't know. I hadn't really thought about it. But so everyone was getting it. So like I went and pre-ordered it, and I was like, all right, well, we'll check it out. And it was just one of those games where like as soon as you play it, you knew you were just gonna sink so much time into it. And Halo 3 became, for like the next year, that and Call of Duty 4 were probably like the only games that entered my Xbox console.
Yeah.
And I would just kind of rotate them based on like, for like a month straight, I would just play nothing but Halo 3, and then I'd play like a couple weeks of Call of Duty. And I put so much time into Halo 3, it was unreal. And then I mean, pretty much played Halo 3 kind of on and off until Reach came out. I wasn't a huge Reach fan. Like I played it at launch, and then I kind of fell off a bit.
Mm.
And then at that point, I was kind of getting ready to go off to college. And when I moved to college, my Xbox just didn't work very well. Like the Xbox itself worked, but for whatever reason, when I tried to play like Xbox Live from my dorm, it just kind of pooped.
Yeah.
Like I couldn't it. You know how Xbox, it probably still has it, but they have all those like settings issues if you have restricted like NAT.
Yeah.
So since I couldn't mess with my router or anything at the dorm, I just like couldn't connect to half the lobbies. And so I kind of stopped playing Xbox for a fair amount of years. And so I really didn't play any Halo 4 besides like I remember I played it a couple nights, and I think I played through part of the campaign. And I was like, yeah, like it wasn't really what I was, yeah, I wasn't really what I was looking for anyways. But then I kind of was, I had moved out of the dorm, and MCC was coming out, and I didn't have an Xbox One, but I was so pumped to be able to play mostly Halo 3, but to play all the Halo games again. So I went and I bought an Xbox, and I bought MCC just for the game to not work.
Mm-hmm.
So I was real thrilled about that. And then like a year later, I wasn't even really planning on playing Halo 5 until I was like sitting around. It's actually funny because I saw Summit streaming like the pre-release thing,
Yeah.
which is hilarious because he's not even like a Halo streamer.
Yeah.
But I saw him playing it, and I was like, this actually looks kind of fun. And so I decided when it came out, I went and picked it up, and then I ended up playing a good amount of Halo 5. And then at that point, I'd kind of stopped playing Xbox again. But once MCC came to PC, I kind of got back into it, and that's really got when I got into kind of the grind with YouTube videos and all that. Was
Yeah.
I had started making them a little bit before Halo came out on PC, but that was kind of the lead up to that, and post when Halo came out. That's been a majority of my content on my channel has kind of been focused around obviously Halo the franchise, but kind of Halo on PC in particular, for sure.
Yeah. Well, I guess it's a really good sum up of the journey. At what point when you're going through that? Actually, sorry, I got to ask about Halo 3 because Halo 3 is my favorite until Infinite comes out, and then I've got a good feel in Infinite. I have a really good feeling about it. I think it might be able to jump right up there as one of my favorite Halo games, if not my favorite Halo game. So,
I feel like for me, I think Halo 3 just hit like that perfect time in my life
yeah,
where I really don't know if even if Infinite's perfect, that it really could even pass it anyways. Like I think there's too much nostalgia there.
yeah, I know.
And Halo 3 was just such an amazing time because like I was in high school, all of my friends at school played Halo 3. Like I would just go home from school. I had homework and crap, but like if we're being real, your responsibilities in high school are so
Minimum, yeah.
minimal compared to once you're an adult, right? And so like all I did was play Halo and think about playing Halo, and I wasn't like super hardcore or anything, but I would grind ranked with friends. I would play a ton of customs. The amount of times that I played through the Halo 3 campaign is unreal because I'm not even really like a campaign player, but someone would be like, hey, do you want to get this skull? Or like, hey, let's do the final mission and do the warthog run. And you'd be like, all right, let's
Yeah,
do it. Why
exactly.
not?
Yeah, yeah.
But
I have very similar memories, and I think you're right. Nostalgia for Halo 3, and because at the time the game had so much stuff that was like revolutionary
yes,
gaming.
exactly. For
You know?
for me, Halo 3 was like the first game that really had it was the full package. It had so much to it. It had a cool ranking system that allowed you to grind it and try and improve and get a better rank. It had social games, which you could just like chill, play with your friends. It had custom games, which were awesome, especially after Foundry came out and Sandbox later came out,
Yeah,
where there was just all sorts of crazy stuff and crazy maps that people were making that on you never saw that stuff on console before. That was I think like Far Cry had a map editor, but Far Cry's multiplayer was never to the scale of Halo, right? And so seeing all this like user created content in a game just it kept it so fresh. You could play new things like literally with how many people were making game modes and maps back then. I remember I would sometimes like at school I would browse 4Chub and I would download maps and then I'd go home and we'd play them with all my friends and you could play new maps like every night.
yeah,
Like if that's what you wanted to do, you could never you never had to repeat a map or a game mode if you didn't want to. And so
yeah,
like you could just experience all these new things. Some were obviously terrible and some were really cool, and a lot of those cool game modes have kind of continued on to this day in MCC. But
yeah. 100%.
yeah, it's just it was just such a complete package. And also I think kind of like I think gaming in general, while it wasn't perfect back then, it had more of that like community feel to it. Because when Halo 3 came out, Xbox Live parties didn't even exist.
Yeah,
You had private chat and you had game chat. So
yeah,
unless you were in a private chat with one person, you were in game chat talking to people. And
yeah,
so every game was full of people using mics, getting yelled at by their mom in the background. And so like it's totally different now than when you hop on MCC or you play Infinite during the flight and you're lucky.
mm,
I mean, and I'm guilty of this too, but you're lucky if one person even talks or
yeah,
like honestly half the time I have it muted. So because everyone's in their own discords or they're playing by themselves while they're listening to music. But like back then, everyone just you just chilled in game chat. Like you met so many people and it was just such a fun experience just to have all those interactions, even if you know you never talk to those people again, but you could shoot the shit with them for like 5-10 minutes and go on your way. Where now it's just gaming seems now more kind of like an isolated experience, even though they're still multiplayer games. They feel more like you're just kind of playing by yourself or you're playing with your specific friends, right?
yeah, yeah.
But
Well, but I think that also has an element for, and I can only really talk from like Halo and Call of Duty because and first person shooter games because that's mainly what I play. And I think a really big issue is that we don't have just a like truly social playlist anymore. Like for any of the games, they have this idea of really wanting to. And look, I could be way off because I'm not someone who I don't make games and I don't understand why they put so much emphasis on it. But having these hidden ranking systems that try to put good players against good players all the time, I understand. I totally understand that in like a rank playlist, that's what we need because it makes
yeah,
keeps it competitive. But like I remember being able to jump in Halo 3, for example, hit Social Slayer start, and there was like a 25% chance I was going to match a team of 50s playing solo and get absolutely wrecked, right?
yeah,
But then I had probably about a 50% chance of getting some team that was worse than me. and then I probably had another 25% chance of getting a group of people that were like at the same skill level than me. And so like realistically, it kind of balanced out the whole experience, you know. And it was the place that you could just go with a bunch of people. Like my friends that were better than me and loved playing ranked wouldn't play ranked with me, but they'd play social.
Yeah,
Like it's
for sure.
and now it's at that point where like it's hard because you know if you're going to Halo 5 or something, even if you're playing with a friend that's not as good as you, you'll get matched against better players than what they should be versing, even if it's only one or two, and it just changes that entire experience from like being able to walk around the map and just do silly things and you know just like enjoy the experience of being in a multiplayer lobby, and it makes it too competitive, you know, like
Yeah.
even just in a social mode. So
No, I agree with you. I mean, I obviously I don't have the access to the numbers and the reasoning
mm,
behind skill-based matchmaking, but every game does it now, and I'm sure it all has to do with retention and engagement and all those dumb metrics that
well,
that I don't care about as much. But
yeah, well, I mean, I get it, and I want more people to stay engaged with the game for longer. But I think that that happens through having the best of both worlds, which is like a
yeah,
social playlist and a ranked playlist, and
yeah,
one is truly ranked and one is truly social. Like I, and or have a better introduction system for new players, so that they play and they realize when you play social, the priority here is good connection and that is your and like there's a rough you know regional thing maybe you know like just good connection and people that are in the same place as you,
yeah,
right? And then it just keeps expanding until it finds the best and closest to those parameters games. When you play ranked, you will be versing the people that are you know a mixture of good connection but also are similar skill levels to you, and explain it to people so that they understand, oh, I can play social and just hang, you know, or I can go and play ranked to get better, you know, like
yeah.
yeah, it's a big thing. But so what did you get to in Halo 3? What was your highest rank?
I think the highest I ever got to was like a 43 on my sister's account in team doubles.
Yeah.
Because Halo 3, and I mean I wasn't like super amazing anyways, but Halo 3 kind of had that effect where if you played a ton, did I lose you? Oh no, we're
Nope,
good.
nope, we're good.
Halo 3 had that effect where if you played a ton on an account, you almost got like hard stuck at a ranking, and it would
Yeah.
get really hard to get out of it. And so I think on my main I got like a 42 in Lone Wolves, but
Yeah.
no, I never got a 50, unfortunately.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it wasn't a really easy thing to do. You had to put a lot of time and effort into it. And like you said, a lot of the time people had to once you played a certain amount and the thing you had to on an account you had to start a new one and go again. And you know towards the end there was a whole issue with boosters and
Yeah, yeah.
a load of stuff that was going on in the background. But so how did you go from someone who's, you know, enjoyed Halo 3, you're at, you know, you're in a dorm, you're hardly playing any Halo or any Xbox at all for a few years there. Come back, a little bit of MCC, obviously the game doesn't work. We all understand how frustrating that was. And then you come back to the PC side of things and you start creating content around it. How did you come to that?
Yeah, so it is kind of so when I've played games, I mean, I've always been kind of competitive. I mean, I've never been like super amazing, but even when I played like Halo 3 and COD 4 back on 360, I would play game battles matches and I would do stuff like that. And I never went to LANs or anything like that because I wasn't that good. But that's kind of always been like something I've enjoyed when I play games is if I'm gonna play a game a lot, I want there to be like a competitive aspect to it.
Mm,
And that was one of the reasons I loved Halo so much too, was because it had the ranked mode built in.
yeah.
But so I did a lot of that when I was in college and I wasn't playing very much Xbox at all. I got really into League of Legends and I wasn't ever any good at that game. But then I got super into Counter-Strike, CS:GO, and I was trying to compete a bit in that.
Mm,
And eventually I played like a 2 or 3 seasons because they have like leagues that have seasons, and I played like 2 or 3 seasons and I kind of messed up my wrist, and I was like, this isn't I'm playing so much of this game and my wrist hurts, this probably isn't worth it just
yeah.
to play in like CEVO immediate.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
so I kind of kind of took a step back, but that was kind of when I decided to get into Halo 5, because that was kind of right at the same time, because I I wouldn't really have wrist issues when I was holding a controller, and so I was like, oh, perfect. Like, and it was Halo, so I got really into Halo 5. I tried competing a bit in Halo 5. Obviously, again, I was never super amazing. I mean, I got champion in Halo 5, but like I didn't do anything tournament placing wise. But eventually I kind of got burnt out on the whole, because at that point playing Halo 5, none of my real life friends or anything like that played Xbox at all anymore. They were all on PC.
Yeah.
And so I was kind of just playing Halo 5 by myself. And after probably about like 8 months of the game, I kind of just got tired of not, I mean, I was meeting people and playing with them, but I kind of just got kind of bored with it and decided to go back and kind of play games with my friends. And so I went back to playing games on PC. I played like another season of like Counter-Strike, and I was like, yeah, this isn't this isn't doing it. And then I was playing Hearthstone
Oh yeah.
pretty intensely for a while, and I would do the legend grind every month. And then eventually, like, I was kind of I kind of just, as I at one point I kind of got married, and I kind of fell off playing games a ton. Like, I'm still playing, but nothing like that. And then I had been watching, it's kind of funny, I'd been watching like long form YouTube content, and not necessarily just Halo, but like Ray Shivek and like Joseph Anderson, these like long form gaming reviews. And I was like, you know what? Like, this would be kind of fun to do these long videos on different games, not necessarily games that just came out either. So you didn't have to like be under the gun to get it out or anything like that. And so I gave it a shot. My first video on my channel, it's still there today, is a review of Rage, the id shooter from whenever it came out. And it's a terrible video. My microphone's terrible, the editing's terrible, my like the way I speak into the mic is terrible. But I made that video, and I kind of enjoyed making it, but it was also a lot of work, because to do a video like that, you have to play the game like once or multiple times if you haven't played it recently. You kind of have to sit down and write a script, and you have to do all this editing. And so I did that for like a handful of my earlier videos, where I just did kind of reviews of old games. And then MCC got MCC had already been announced for PC, but I decided to do kind of like a commentary video about why I thought MCC PC was really important for Halo. And that was it was a video that was a lot easier to make, because I could just kind of, like, I just wrote down a script off of my thoughts, recorded it, and then kind of edited it. Right there you go, that's the perfect video. But yeah, so I made that video about MCC, and it's nothing special. But I made that video, and I was like, you know what, like, not only did that take a lot less time, it was also something I kind of enjoyed making. And then I kind of bounced around making videos on different kind of, mostly shooters, and I would just kind of, it kind of just gave me an excuse to play more games again. I would play a game, and I would, play it for a few weeks, make a video on it, make videos on different things. And then kind of, yeah, as Halo got closer to coming out on PC, it just kind of started to focus more solely on Halo instead of variety, as I kind of, had Halo to talk about more, and to focus on content. And then it kind of evolved from there to where it is now.
Yeah. Well, it makes sense that you kind of get to the Halo content, right? But there's been a lot that's obviously gone from that point to now. At what point did the channel start growing, and when you were like, hang on, I really am enjoying putting out this content, and I want to do it, I want to put more out?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, so obviously there's, if a lot of people that know me, there's kind of the two channels. There's just the Arrrash and then Arrrash TV.
Mm-hmm.
And so on my main channel, I would say I finally started seeing growth right when MCC PC dropped,
Mm.
because I remember making like a basic reach tips and tricks video, and it got like 20K in the first month, which for me at the time was just like insane, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it was the first time I started to see like actual subscriber growth. And that kind of kind of snowballed a little bit, obviously, as I had more MCC stuff to make videos on. And then later, and then that kind of just, I don't know, has kind of grown over time. But with Arrrash TV, it was later last year now. Wow, it's been a while. But Mint Blitz had started posting just like short Halo clips. And so I noticed, like, wow, Mint Blitz is getting a ton of views and he's just posting a Halo clip every day. And don't get me wrong, like Mint Blitz posts cool clips, but like at the end of the day, I think most people would agree it's probably easier to post a clip than it is to make a fully edited video and a thumbnail and all that stuff, right? And so I was like, screw it. Like, oh, why don't I try this? And so I posted a couple clips on my main channel at the time, and they did again pretty well for me. I think I posted like an invasion clip of me jumping off Spire onto the Falcon and capping the core, and it got like 30 or 40K. And I was like, "Ooh, that's pretty cool." And then so that was like pretty early on before everyone kind of started posting clips. But I had decided at that point, I posted probably a handful on my main channel, and I was kind of torn, like, I didn't really want to become someone who only posted clips, but I also thought it was kind of confusing to try and post clips and my like more edited longer videos. And so I'd already had my other channel because I had posted, like, at that point it was literally just, if I was streaming, sometimes I would take like a single game unedited and put it on YouTube, and those did like nothing, right? They'd get like 10 views. And so I was like, well, I'll just try and put these clips on that channel, and we'll kind of see what happens. And so for a few months, I was just posting like my own clips. I would post like one a day, right? And then I kind of got to the point where I realized, like, I have to not post clips daily, or I have to play a lot more Halo, or I have to make more of an effort to get clips when I play Halo as opposed to just kind of playing it.
Yeah.
And I kind of came to like the realization that a lot of people kind of want and it was already happening with like single Halo clips, right? A lot of people kind of want to share their clips. And so I kind of put a little thing where you could submit clips, and or like sometimes if I saw a clip from someone, I'd be like, hey, do you mind if I share this? I'll give you credit and everything. And so that channel kind of evolved into that, where it became a hub for community clips, but then also, like, as I play Halo and stuff, I'll still post my own clips. And that channel kind of blew up toward the end of last year. It kind of, well, like the start of this year, I guess, was when that channel really started getting traction. And now the whole clip thing has kind of, it's like spiraled out of control. Like everyone has started doing it. So
Yeah.
it's definitely becoming, whereas before I would say like there was like 2 or 3 accounts that were posting Halo clips. Now it's like everyone. So it's become pretty saturated. But
Yeah, for sure. It's the type of thing though at the moment that like YouTube, I think, noticed the success that TikTok was having, and so
yes.
they came up with YouTube Shorts and all that type of stuff, and it's just it changed the way that the algorithm works enough for relevant content creators that knew about it to go, okay, that's it. I'm just putting out some short form content now, and I think the way to do it is to have separate channel from your, I would call it like your effort channel, like the channel where you're editing videos and
Yeah.
it takes longer to put out content, but it's your quality stuff. And then you have the quick form content. I was actually talking to some of the guys the other day about exactly that. And so that's something that we've just done. We have the first video going up tonight, but literally just to be, instead of it being everybody's clips, it's just going to be people that are a part of Divine Minds clips. But exactly, it's something that if you're not doing it, then you're missing out on where the meta is, for
Yeah.
YouTube at the moment. So that's cool. And so you found that out just from like experimenting with your channel, like your second channel?
I mean, I Mint Blitz kind of led the way,
Right.
but
Really?
there was, he was doing it at the time, and there was a channel called, it's like FTW Walshy FB, or it might be flipped around, and he hasn't posted in months. So I guess I don't know if it's a he. I don't know who runs the channel, but that person hasn't posted in months now. But at the time, it was mostly just Mint Blitz and him. And Mint Blitz was getting his own clips, and then the Walshy guy was posting clips mostly from Reddit, I think. But so it was like, you had the two people that were mostly posting just singular clips, and they were both at the time doing pretty well. And so I was like, you know what, like we'll give it a shot. And I remember at the time a lot of other people had kind of tried, like dabbled with it a little bit, like a lot of other content creators, and a lot of them kind of didn't follow through with it, I think, because it didn't necessarily blow up right away like they thought it would. Whereas now, like a year later, I think a lot of them have seen that it does in fact work, and so everyone has kind of hopped back on the train. Especially it helps too with like the hype for Infinite too, right? More people want to see Halo clips since it's a new Halo. You're not watching another Halo 3 clip for the 9,000th time.
Yeah, I know. And also, like, Halo clip quality right now is like unbelievable. You've got so many people that are like so many montages that just hit them with ridiculous stuff every single day. Like, actually really great story. And I hope that one day Eli sees this. I went into Eli's stream. I've been meaning to go and watch him stream, Eli X, that is, for months. I've been like, okay, I've got a list of people who I'm like, I've got to go and I've got to drop a sub and I've got to say hi and, be a part of and see what they're doing on their stream. I was in his stream for maybe 2 minutes and he hit a Killionaire in Halo 2. And I was just like, I've never hit one in my life, like a proper one, right? And I was like, that is 2 minutes in his stream for the first time. How do people think that they can compete with that, right? If that's all you're going to be doing is posting clips. Like, if you can't do what those guys are doing, it's going to be so difficult for people to try and create content. So it's really important to be doing things that are a little bit different, right? Or have the entertainment value, like you be entertaining, like you're the reason why people are watching the clip, right?
And I think there's currently there's kind of like a handful of different ways to post clips. I mean, you can post like straight just like high quality kills and like high multi kills and stuff, but there's also just, especially with Infinite, you can kind of just post anything like, hey, this is new. Took me 30 seconds and I clipped me grappling around a map, right, or something like that. Like, you can post a lot of that stuff right now too. As the game is more discovered and people have seen those, you'll have to do bigger and crazier things for those to do well. But right now it's kind of a free-for-all. You can just post whatever.
yeah, for sure. Did you see the clip that Remy posted, Mint Blitz posted, with using the Warthog and then grapple launch himself for the overkill? It was on.
I don't think I saw that one.
Oh, dude, it was on bots, but I was just like, man, the game's not even out yet. Like, calm down. Like, this guy is just, and like, I love Remy. I've been watching Remy stuff for probably about 10 years now, right? And watching him grow from like a few hundred subs to where he is. And then I saw this clip, and yeah, literally, it's he's like on Behemoth up where the Warthog spawns, and he's just shoots a few bots and gets a triple kill, throws a plasma nade at the back of the Warthog, and then just before the plasma nade explodes, he grapples onto the back of the Warthog.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah.
He throws him right up into the air, and then he just quickscopes another bot down there for the I was like, dude, like, he's just got a way where he's thinking of things and then practicing them and then and
for sure.
I love that.
Yeah, Mint Blitz does a really good job of coming up with like creative ways to hit clips. Like, he's not just hitting an overkill, right?
Yeah.
Or he's not just playing campaign. Like, he finds really creative ways to do stuff so that it's entertaining to watch.
Yeah.
And even his clips have, honestly, like, you can tell that even those they've gotten higher quality, especially like not so much Infinite right now because he doesn't have theater, but when he'll post like a Halo 3 or a Reach clip or something, you'll see he'll get all these different angles and everything like that. So even there's been like a huge improvement in quality.
Yeah, and I think that's an important thing for being a content creator, is just constantly looking for what can I do to improve and how can I get better.
For sure.
For you specifically, like, what are the goals? What are you kind of working on or focusing on at the moment?
I mean, I don't necessarily have any specific goals. It's kind of just to keep growing. I mean, Mostly when I'm thinking about growth and everything. I mean, it's more focused on my main channel. I want that one to grow more since that's more like me.
Yeah.
But it's just kind of post stuff, grow. Hopefully, with Infinite coming out, like it's an opportunity to maybe see a level of growth that hasn't existed in Halo, at least since I've been making content, and who knows from there, right? I mean, I think maybe not everyone, but a lot of people that make content would love to do it as like a full-time gig, right? And so if it happens, it happens. If not, I mean, I still enjoy doing it, and it is what it is. So
Yeah.
we'll see. We'll see how Infinite goes. I mean, you can't predict the future, and hopefully the game is good too. I mean, from the flight, it seems good, but there's definitely things that need to be fixed, right?
Yeah.
uh and who knows, maybe those are perfect and
Yeah.
the game explodes. Or even if the game is really good, that doesn't necessarily mean it'll be super popular either, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I don't know, there's so many unknown factors going into a new game that
Yeah. Yeah.
the goals are very broad. just
Yeah.
just keep posting stuff, keep trying to improve, grow, all that stuff.
So after the last flight, what were the key things that you kind of have in your head thinking, okay, that should be different, that needs to change? Like what do you think? What was your quick overview?
Yeah, I mean, performance first and foremost still needs to be fixed on PC.
Hmm.
Uh, top end PC still can't even get 144 frames. I think that's almost like critical fix one. I don't know what 343's current builds play like, but in my opinion, trying to, if they were to release a competitive shooter that you can't even run, like you need to be able to run it probably over 144 frames on like a mid-tier PC. And
Mm.
like top end like 3080 Ti's can't even get 144 frames at the moment. So I think that's issue one, or they're going to run into issues. I think another thing is, and it's less of like an issue with the flight, but it's just there needs to be enough content there at launch. We've already heard content that isn't going to be there at launch. So hopefully there's enough maps, there's enough game modes and everything to keep everyone entertained, because going back to like Halo 5's launch, like for me, I found the core gameplay very fun, but it was also missing a ton of stuff.
Oh yeah.
And so I don't want to see that again with Halo Infinite, where we get a game at its core that's pretty fun, but might be missing content.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Besides that, my issues with the game are less large in scale. Like I think the weapon balancing needs some work for sure.
Definitely.
And some stuff like that, but that's like less of a critical error or a critical issue in my opinion, because that stuff could still be fixed like after launch with balance patches.
What's your opinion on, because one of the things that I really couldn't stand, and if I'm completely honest, I didn't even look at it because I couldn't get to it as easy as what I should have been able to. The like UI and like how things just looked,
Oh,
and like
the UI is pretty bad.
I just
If there's
I remember Reach, man.
yeah,
I remember Reach's system, especially for armor encodings and stuff. Like, and you unlock something new, there was a little notification, so it led you to where that something new was. It had the
yeah,
stars next to it, and then you could see the Spartan wearing it, and like it was clean, crisp, showed you the right way. And so far in Infinite, I haven't changed my armor once, because the first of all, I couldn't find a way to do it while I was like waiting for a game to load, or
yeah.
like while I was doing it, you have to back right out, and then you're specifically
Yeah.
focusing on your Spartan. What do you think?
No, I agree. The UI definitely leaves a lot to be desired. Unfortunately, I think they've pretty much said that by launch they're not going to change it. So
Yeah.
I think we're out of luck there. But UI has not been something 343 has done overly well in any of their games.
Mm.
Like MCC and Halo 5 and now Infinite all seem to have like the it's almost like a minimalist it's a UI that focuses on like trying to have a cool look to it and be like, you see your little Spartan standing there, and if you're in a party, like you see the other dudes, and it's like, I don't really care about that stuff. Like Halo 3 and Reach were perfect. Like you had a little menu, you picked what you wanted, and it was easy to get to everything. And the customization in Reach and 3, like it was quick.
Mm,
Whereas now I feel like the way they've done the customization screen's terrible. Like everything scrolls horizontally along the bottom. You have to like click on it and then you scroll through all the options, like
mm,
horizontally, of course, because
yeah.
everything has to be horizontally. We don't have lists. So I changed my Spartan like twice during the flight, and I just don't care.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, I'm not someone that overly cares about it anyway, so I'm sure that like my feedback regarding that's not overly important because I
Yeah,
could, you know, like I think it's a bad move if they didn't do it, but like I could play Halo Infinite and probably never change my Spartan, and it wouldn't make a big impact on the way that I play the game and enjoy it. You
yeah,
know?
yeah. I'm kind of right there with you. It's not. It's never been a huge issue for me. I mean, I will customize my Spartan sometimes, but or like in other games that have skins, like sometimes I'll equip them and stuff from the battle pass, but it's never been something I really care about. Like I just want the core gameplay to be fun. That's what's most important to me.
Yeah, one of the things that I've like one of my little theories on getting keeping kids engaged with the new game is that they need to have like a dopamine rush playing the
Hmm.
game because that's like not I'm not saying it because that's what Halo does. I'm saying that because it's what every other game
Oh
does,
yeah.
and it sort of keeps them. You know, the
It's
colors.
all about like that constant drip feeding of that dopamine rush. And it's like every time you finish a game, you beat it, you unlock, you do a challenge.
Yeah,
Like every few games you unlock some meaningless skin or nameplate or emblem and all the stuff I don't care about. And
yeah, yeah.
it's all meant to keep you on the wheel and just
Oh
keep
yeah.
on going.
And I remember the first time I played, and this is, I think, the best example of it because Call of Duty just does it so well. And Call of Duty now is at the point where, like, you can literally not get a kill for the first 2 minutes of the game, right? And then you get a kill, and you get five things pop up on your screen, right? Like, first of all, if you die a bunch and then you get a kill, it gives
Yeah.
you more points. So the number comes up on the screen, like 200 points. And then you get up on the top of the screen, headshot, assault rifle kill,
Yeah.
saturation was down on the TV, the air outside 30 degrees. Like, they just give you a bunch of random medals
Yeah.
that don't mean
Yeah.
anything. But like,
And
the sound comes and it makes you go, oh shit, I killed someone, you know? Like,
yeah. No, and Infinite and Halo 5 and stuff kind of do that too. Whereas like in Halo 3, there was still a lot of medals in Reach, but like in 5 and Infinite, you get medals for like everything.
mm, yeah.
So
And we've got a bunch more that are articulated now as well. You know,
yeah.
like we got the pancake medal, the 360 no scope, like
Yeah.
just a bunch of stuff that I was like, you know what, that's really cool because the first time that you do those things, it's enough for you to be like, wow, I want to do that again. You know,
Yeah.
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 What do you think about the way that all the equipment plays?
The equipment is a lot of fun. I enjoy the repulsor and the grappling hook. I think those are some of the best like innovation that 343 has done in the Halo game. I think
Yeah.
they fit fantastically in the sandbox and they're also really fun.
Mm,
Uh I honestly I have no issues with them. They're just really fun. The drop wall kind of is useless in my opinion. And I have issues kind of with how the equipment interacts with the power ups and kind of how you have to drop the equipment to pick up a power up, then activate the power up, then pick the equipment back up. I
mm,
think that's kind of clunky and awkward,
yeah.
but
Yeah, I thought for sure. I don't know why, but I thought for sure that if you're already holding equipment, it'd say like, instead of holding B to drop it,
yeah,
hold B to equip.
yep.
So
I have
like,
no clue why it doesn't, why you can't just auto equip it.
yeah, I like instead of
Because
to do that whole series.
from from this flight alone, I can't even count how many times I would have a charge of something and I would go to pick up overshield and you would get stuck there for legitimately like 10 seconds because
Yeah,
you had to pick up the overshield, you had to stand there and activate the overshield, and then you had to pick your equipment back up. And yeah, sure, you could run through, pick up the overshield and abandon your equipment, but if you had equipment you wanted, like you wanted to stick around. And so I felt that whole gameplay like loop and interaction was really buggy, but or not buggy, it was really awkward. But luckily, I hope that's something where if enough people give that feedback, I don't. It's not like core design of the game. I think that's something you could change.
I think that's something that you
So
could have as even a control setting, like for like an equipment specific thing that like it says
yeah,
like, it's like toggle, like now it has like a hold to zoom. Like we've never had that in a Halo game. It might be something like hold to equip, so
Yeah.
that like you can straight up pick something up off the ground. If
Yep.
your equipment slot is full and you run over something, you can hold B to equip it. So if it's an overshield or an active camo, or like if they have anything else that comes in, you could hold B, equip it, and maintain your equipment. And then in the same way, there might be an option to like just tap B, and that is where you drop it and pick up the other one. You know, like I
For
think,
sure.
yeah, I think it's accessible and not too hard. But when we talk about Twitch, because you stream on Twitch as well.
I do. I've gone back and forth trying to figure out where I want to stream, and I haven't really in recent months I've done a terrible job like committing to a platform and sticking to it, but I kind of go back and forth. I think currently Twitch as a platform it has more features and everything for streaming. I think the top end potential on Twitch is a lot better. But if you have an existing fan base on YouTube, it's way easier to get them to watch a YouTube stream.
Yeah.
But then you unfortunately lose all the cool Twitch features and everything like that. So I've gone back and forth doing YouTube and Twitch streams.
Yeah. So, because I've noticed and looked into it a fair bit as well, like the main differences between like YouTube and Twitch, but it looks like the it looks like there's the lack of discoverability for Twitch, whereas YouTube has like your YouTube channel, so you can get discovered and the channel can grow like organically, and you don't have to be live. And I think
Yeah.
it's something where I see a lot of young content creators getting stuck is on Twitch. They're trying to stream too
Yeah.
much, and so they're never growing because they're just always streaming and they're not putting out any content onto anything else, and no one's ever seeing anything that they do, right?
For
But they're
sure.
live 24 hours a day. So that like that's a downside to Twitch. An upside to Twitch is that it's actually relatively easy to monetize and get the ability to start having some income like coming from it.
Yeah.
It's not much. And YouTube isn't as good as that, because like the base subscribe is like $1, and you can't change it and edit it as much.
You with YouTube, you can set your own subscription amount. So you don't have to have $1 subscription. You choose that. You could have your lowest subscription be $25 if you wanted.
Yeah.
That would probably be dumb, but you can do that if you want. But no, I agree. I think that's something that not I don't know how to say this without being rude, but like there's people that do like the Twitch grind where they stream like 12 hours a day to like 2 people, and it just makes me sad because it's like they think they're putting in all this effort and doing this huge grind when in reality they're just wasting a lot of time, because unless you have an existing fan base on Twitch, putting in obscene hours is honestly useless. Like no one scrolls to the bottom and finds people, so the only people that are going to watch you are like your friends anyways. And so if you want to grow on Twitch, I feel like there's 2 ways to do it currently in gaming. Make content on other platforms that are discoverable like YouTube or TikTok, or even like Twitter or Instagram maybe, but YouTube and TikTok are probably the easiest. Or if you're like a legitimate like pro player and you're going pro, then I feel you can circumvent that because you just get good enough that people know your name anyways, and then they'll kind of watch for that. But if you're like more of like a content creator or an entertainer, straight just grinding Twitch is such a waste of time.
Yeah. And you'll get depressed. Like
yeah. Oh yeah, because you're just streaming for fucking like 12 hours to not many people. Or even if you play games with people, like you're still live and everything. Like you still have to be in the mindset that you're streaming to people, and it does, if you put that many hours in, even if you're a big streamer and you put that many hours in, it takes a toll on you. But
yeah, for sure. But like what I meant by that is like you'll get to a point where you go, I've been doing this for 6 months and I haven't seen any growth, and you'd feel like you're wasting all your time. Where like it's so much easier if you go, okay, I'm going to stream. Like I suggest to all of the young kids that are a part of Divine Mind that they should stream 3 times a week max, and those 3 times a week should be for a max of 3 hours. And that's my suggestion. I was like, while you're starting, it's good because you get to practice for that whole 3 hours being entertaining. That's hard to do. It's not easy to be entertaining for 3 hours,
For sure.
And engaging with your followers and playing the game and listening to what they're saying and doing challenges and whatever. And then when you're not doing that 3 hour stream on every other day of the week, put an hour or 2 hours into taking the content that you've created from even those 3 hours worth of playing and put that into other places and look at how to edit it and get better at
For
making
sure.
thumbnails like what I was talking to you about
Yeah.
before we started. That
No,
that that
for sure. Yeah. That's a good point. You did like, just because you're not big on Twitch doesn't mean you straight up shouldn't stream. Like it used to, if you want to stream on Twitch, like you still should, like like 3 or 4 days a week whenever you have time. But you should, if you were going to stream 5 or 6 days a week for like X amount of hours, you should take some of that time and put it aside and instead create YouTube videos or TikToks or whatever else you want to do to make content.
yeah.
But put something somewhere else that's more discoverable to push people toward your streams.
Yeah. So when you're live on Twitch, how many concurrent viewers would you say you kind of average?
It really
What does
depends.
that look like on YouTube as well?
Yeah, I'm on YouTube. It really depends because it's all like algorithm driven, and if there's an event going. But I would say like my average Halo stream, because if I don't play Halo, it tanks numbers, right? But I would say my average Halo stream is probably like 25 to 30. I did find during like the last flight during Infinite that my numbers tank because everyone just watches all the big streamers, which like that's fine. No, it's just because everyone's streaming, right? Whereas like a normal night, you have way less people streaming. But yeah, I would say like on average, it's probably like 25 to 30. Some nights are better, right? Some nights are worse. Like we did a podcast last night with some of my buddies, and we just talked about Halo Infinite, and I think we averaged like 90. But obviously, I can't capitalize on that every stream, right? So, but yeah, and then on YouTube, it's all over the place. I did an Infinite stream last flight, and I had like 400 peak viewers on
Wow.
YouTube. But this time, I did some streams during this flight, and I would say I probably averaged like 30 to 40.
Yeah. Yeah. So it depends. Like you said, it's algorithm based.
Yeah, it's just the big difference, and it's one of the reasons I don't really like streaming on YouTube is YouTube is more discoverable and it will push your stream to your subscribers. But on Twitch, there's like the following bar. People just go and like they're like, oh, cool, like I want to watch MCC. Which of my people that I follow is streaming MCC? Whereas like on YouTube, since it's not really a platform that people go to find streams usually, you kind of rely on the algorithm telling people like, oh, hey, this person that you're sub to is streaming Halo if you want to watch it, right?
Yeah. I had this idea a while ago. I can't remember who I was talking to on the podcast, but the idea is that inbuilt into Halo Infinite, there should have been an option to like integrate your social media. So and then inside of like a community tab in the game, you click on the community tab and it comes up with who's live,
Yeah.
right? And instead of having it, you can, if you really want to filter it to most people, you can filter it to most people. But I would say that they'd be like a thing of doing a focus streamer like for an hour, right? And that way, there's 24 streamers, right, throughout the
Yeah.
day that get an hour, just like randomly chosen. Like, cool, you're like this is your hour, and maybe they could send an email before whatever, and it's all done through the game, so that like if you're jumping on Halo for the first time in the day, and you're still having a coffee or you're having a just watching some YouTube or just chilling out, you could go on and you can be like, who's streaming?
Yep.
Go onto that stream thing, and then there's a featured streamer there who's someone who you wouldn't have found organically, but it gives an opportunity for that person to get the limelight. I think that type of stuff could be a really good avenue for 343 to like, because they benefit from having people creating content about the game, right?
Yeah.
And then blowing up.
I think that's a cool idea in theory. The problem I think comes into like if you're gonna feature someone prominently in your game, you're almost responsible for what they do on stream. Like you're not, but you are. So it almost has to be curated to like the point where maybe it's just grassroots members, which then at that point it's like that it's pretty selective because like the thought in my head is if you're picking random people, unless you really know and trust this person, you never know what that person's going to do on stream. There's a lot of people in the Twitch category that get away with a lot of stuff because no one's watching, right? But if you put a spotlight on them, they might do or say some stuff that isn't, that puts a bad light on 343, because 343 is prominently focused or like
Yeah.
promoting them in their game, right?
So it could be like something where you've got to sign up for it, and it's
Yeah.
called like it's like something or other academy. And
They could, yeah, they could easily do something like that where they have a team that maybe kind of works with the community to kind of help content get out there and everything like that.
yeah, I don't know. I just think that would be a really cool thing for them to do because they love content creators. They love
Yeah.
the fact that like Remy and Ubernick and all these guys are getting so many views on their videos because it just means that and the fact that like for those two guys, their communities love them. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So if they say, I love Halo Infinite, their communities, at least a giant portion of those communities will be like, we love Halo Infinite, you know?
For
So,
sure. For
so
sure.
it's in 343's best, intentions to find the people that have got a good community and obviously try to help keep pushing them up as well, you know? But tell me about YouTube, because obviously I've seen so much of your stuff coming out right now. You've got a bunch of stuff that you're doing that's obviously just like the clips. Are you do you have them all just like scheduled, uploaded? Are you doing that yourself? Do you have like an editor or someone who's helping you manage the channel? How do you?
Yeah, so Arrrash TV is all me, obviously, with the huge caveat that people submit clips to me. So they're not all my clips. I just kind of, I have a Google form and I kind of go through and I find ones that look good and or that are cool or interesting, or sometimes they don't even have to be interesting if you can think of like a catchy title, right? And so that I just upload them on there. I currently I'm working from home, so I won't lie. There's times when I do it when I'm working.
Yeah.
But other than that, yeah, it's like go through at night and kind of watch a bunch of clips and schedule clips and stuff like that. Or also like I mean I still play a ton of Halo myself, so I have a ton of my own clips, and especially like, well, obviously when I was playing Infinite this past weekend, I got a ton of clips and I get a ton of ideas just because like when there's a new game, there's so much stuff to showcase that isn't even skill related. Like you just showcase a new gun or you showcase a new mechanic and stuff like that, and you don't even it doesn't even need to be anything special. But I'm sure you've seen, if you've been on YouTube the past few days, the amount of clips that have just gone through the roof that are like, in Halo Infinite you can reload.
Yeah.
That was a bad example, but
I know what you're saying. Yeah.
stuff like that, where anything that it's like new or interesting or stuff like that, if you think of it, you can create most of those clips in like 10 minutes, right? And so it's a mixture of that. On my main channel, I now, or for a few months now, I've had an editor that helps me out with not every video, but it kind of, I kind of just work with him in his schedule. If he's able to edit videos, usually he does them. If not, I edit them. Unless it's like sometimes I'll make like a short news video. If it's like a 2-minute news video, I mean, I'm probably not going to send that to him, but he's been a lot of help because it kind of allows me to like have more time to stream and stuff like that, which allows me to then reuse some of those streams as YouTube content, which is like an editing style that I was never very good at doing when I was doing it all myself, which was taking a Twitch VOD and condensing it into an 8-minute video that's actually fun to watch.
Yeah.
And so he's been a huge help for that, where he also does like my voiceover videos and stuff that I used to do a lot of, and he'll edit those, and he does a better job editing those than I do too. But I think the biggest help is he's able to kind of put like an entertaining spin, and he's a lot better and more willing to kind of sit through a VOD and kind of chop it up and kind of find the interesting moments. Whereas like that's content where I used to just stream on Twitch and that was it. Like that content just kind of, that was the end of it. But now I try and reuse a lot of it if I can. If I'm just playing like social Halo 3 for the 9,000th hour, I'm not going to turn that into a video. But like this past weekend, we're playing Infinite. Like I'm gonna turn those VODs into videos, right?
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. And you've mentioned a few times, obviously, that you've got to work outside of this. What do you do for work?
Yeah, I'm a telecommunication engineer. I work for like one of the big ISPs, and it's like a mixed role, but I kind of just help plan fiber routes and deal with old copper network and stuff, and it's all right.
Yeah, cool. And whereabouts are you? You're in America?
Yeah. I live in Omaha, Nebraska.
Okay, cool, awesome. Yeah, I
Yeah.
had
So
no idea.
kind of the middle of the country.
Yeah, yeah. I was going to say, and you're dealing with copper routes. That sounds like the issue we've been having in Australia.
America infrastructure sucks in a lot of places.
Yeah,
Even in cities where you would think it would all be fiber by now, it's not.
yeah,
Or or there's one provider that has fiber and other providers are still using copper. Like so at my house, I run into the issue where stories I've heard from Australia are way worse. But like currently, I pay $65 for 100 down, 10 up, which is pretty good internet. But with streaming and trying to upload like VODs and stuff so that my editor can edit them, I found my upload speed like it bottlenecks me sometimes. And so I was looking into upgrading my internet, but from the internet provider that I have their highest package, right? And the only way to get higher upload speeds is to switch to a different provider, buy their most expensive package, and pay extra fees to not have data overages. And
yeah,
I'm looking at going from like 65 a month to 180 a month. And I'm
yeah,
like, ugh, I don't know if I want to pay that. And it's not even like I'm getting a gig up and down. I'm getting like a gig down and 35 up. Like,
yeah,
okay.
yeah, yeah. When I moved to, I'm in Toronto at the moment, and my that where the house I'm living in, they had like dial-up internet when I got here. I was like, "What
Sick.
are you doing?" I was like, "You're in Toronto. Your
Yeah.
internet here can literally be like 2 gigs up and down, like
Yeah.
like it, And so it's like one of the first things I did. I called and I upgraded them, and then they were like, "Oh, we can actually like stream Netflix now," and I was like,
Yeah.
how,
Yeah.
how,
In America, and I can't speak for every city, but even in my city, if you live in a part of town that has fiber, you're set, right? Prices are good and you can get good internet. But if you're still in a part of town that's trying to milk out the last dollar out of old copper or old coax networks, you just get hosed. And
yeah,
it sucks. And what stinks too is since I work in the industry, a lot of times logically you would think like bigger cities would get faster internet like all over the city faster than a smaller town. But what you find out is it's so expensive for these companies to overbuild these big cities that either they don't do it or they pick and choose. Like they'll do new neighborhoods and they'll do a neighborhood where it's cheaper for them, and so you end up with these pockets of existing towns. Like
yeah,
not that I live in a huge city, but like these existing like decent sized places that have just like not terrible internet, right? I'm not if you live in rural America, your internet still just sucks, right? But so I'm not at that level, but yeah.
yeah, yeah. Well, I noticed that even when the NBN started rolling out in Australia, I think a lot of people looked at the NBN rollout plan and kind of went, "What will happen here is they'll start in a big city and move outwards." But what they actually did is they started a little bit more rurally because it was easy for
Yep.
the
Yeah.
development, and then they kind of moved
There's
in.
there's a lot of fiber companies that have kind of popped up in America, and I would say the last 5 to 10 years that they target not straight up the middle of nowhere, but they target your smaller towns, your like your 10 to 50,000 population areas, or even smaller in some cases, because it's so much cheaper to overbuild that entire town
Yeah,
as opposed to trying to hit like a and also you don't have competition in those areas too, right? If you overbuild it with fiber, you're probably the only one there.
mm,
Whereas like if you decided to go overbuild Kansas City or something, you're like the 10th company to do it.
yeah, yeah. I get what you're saying.
So
Um, I was going to say, hey, did you see the news about the event in Rayleigh? Is it Rayleigh? How do you
I
pronounce
think it's pronounced Riley or
it? Riley?
no, hold on, Riley. I had it earlier, but whatever. Someone can correct us in the comments. Is it Riley? Whatever.
Yeah,
It's in North Carolina.
yeah. That's an easy way to say
I
it.
saw it. Yeah, I want to go. I'm trying to get one of my buddies to go and like mostly go for the experience, but since we're gonna go, like go play and get crapped on in the first round.
Dude, you got to buy tickets like soon. They were over halfway sold out.
I saw that for spectator passes, but the team passes are like next
Oh
month,
yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
You go as a team, you think, and
yeah,
try
yeah.
and play.
So
Yeah,
I did see that. I'll probably pick up a spectator pass just in case we don't play. But yeah, no,
that's
I want to go down for sure. My only hesitation is just like COVID. Like
yeah, totally.
I because I have kids at home too, and so like I don't want to bring home COVID to them.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. Are
So
you double vaxxed?
I am, but you still can't get it for kids yet at their age because they're young.
Yeah, yeah. No,
So
I hear what you're saying. I think honestly, I think we're getting to a place where like the world's going to be a little bit more open, and hopefully everybody at the event will be able to kind of respect the um, protocol that's in place to make sure that we can have a healthy, safe event, and then be able to do it more regularly and show the rest of the world that hey, we're ready to start going back to doing some normal stuff. You know?
yeah, and we've seen lanes in other games, so this isn't like the first time. Although I haven't seen a whole ton of American lands yet. I feel like most of the lands I've seen in other games have been like in various European countries that I think have more lax policies.
Yeah, 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 for sure. Yeah.
But no, I've never been to a Halo event in person. I've obviously never played at one, but I don't have high hopes for that. But
Yeah, yeah. Well, you could
but
even still do the free for all on. I think it's on the
yeah,
last
yeah,
day.
yeah. I figure if I'm gonna go, like fuck it, it's an open tournament, and I'll play for fun. And it's like the second week the game that comes out too. Like there will be people that'll be cracked, but I think the playing ground will be a lot more even too, because it'll just be it's such a new game. Whereas like the results from this tournament are going to be so out of whack 6 months from now. Like
Oh, for
it's
sure.
like you'll see some teams here and some names that do well here that are still doing well 2 years from now. But so many people that place well in this tournament probably like
Yeah,
won't be in the pro scene in a year from now.
yeah,
But
for sure. And then I think that we're going to see that as well with a lot of the older guys that are trying to come back. I think that a lot of them will kind of go, okay, we're not at the top. Is it really worth grinding to get to the top when I've got everything else going on in my life? You know, and I'm not talking about so much the guys that are on big teams that have got contracts and money from it. I'm talking
yeah,
about
yeah,
the guys that are kind of just underneath that and need to come back in. But it's funny as well because we want to have an Australian team there, and they said that there's going to be an Australian team,
yeah.
and it
Hmm.
was just like it was so shocking when I read that. I read that the second that that post went up, and I was like, "There's." They said Australia's welcome. I was like, "Holy shit!" Every
Yeah,
plan that I
that's
had,
huge because
yeah.
even though it's an open tournament, fucking an open tournament for an unsponsored team from Australia is irrelevant. You're never going to be able to go.
No,
But is it how many teams qualify from Australia? Because
I don't. I sent Tashi a really long email. I had like 500 questions. I don't know if
I
he'll
got you.
get back to me sooner enough, but because like for us, the country's borders are currently closed.
Mm,
The vaccination rates aren't as high as the rest of the world. And I was just asking a bunch of questions like, it's so close to Christmas, are the kids gonna have to do, like if because
yeah,
we were prepared to pay for the kids to go over there. Like that's what we
yeah,
budgeted for from our org's perspective. And then it says all the flights and accommodation are done. I'm like, well, I need to know how this works
yeah,
so
yeah,
that
yeah.
I can reallocate those funds to make the experience easier. And if
For
that
sure.
means, something about like making sure that when the kids go back to Australia and do they have to do a 2 week quarantine? If they've got to do a 2 week quarantine, then we want to pay for that so they don't have to do it. Like I got to know these things. And
Yeah,
because beforehand, I didn't think we were going to get invited. So literally, we were planning on holding
yeah,
events in the first few weeks in Infinite for Australia. You
for
know,
sure. Yeah.
so super
No,
time to.
I I hope that this becomes a trend because I think one of the biggest points of growth for Halo,
Mm,
well, A, it's on PC and it's free to play. That's huge.
yeah.
But also is to grow outside of the standard regions that Halo has been big in. Like Halo needs to hit Europe hard. Halo
Oh
needs to
yeah.
hit Asia hard. Halo
Oh
needs
yeah.
to hit Australia hard.
Yeah.
All these places where there's been a scene in Europe for quite some time, and there's been a scene in Australia, but I think most people would admit it's much smaller there compared to
Definitely.
in America, where I mean, most Halo pros come from America. Most teams are American or Canadian, but same thing.
Yeah. But I
Same
just
thing. They
yeah. So you
and
get
and if they're gonna do all these open tournaments, which are awesome, that's really cool for Halo because that's kind of how it was built off of. I hope that they continue to find ways to let teams from other regions come to these open tournaments because an open tournament for me where I could drive, I'm not going to drive to North Carolina, but like an open tournament for me where I could drive or take a short flight is a heck of a lot different than an open tournament for someone from Korea or from Australia. Like that doesn't mean the same thing to them because that's a pretty penny to get here.
yeah, yeah, for sure. And that but like that was like a big thing for us when we were thinking about having a team, right? Where like we for us to get a team over there and house them and whatever, like so some quick history on the Australian Halo scene for you. The last few times that we've had Australian teams go and compete internationally, they've gone like 2 days before the event. They've literally flown in.
Yeah.
Then the next day they've gone to the event, they've
Yeah.
competed, and then they're out, right?
Yep.
So for them, they're like absolutely exhausted. Their sleeping
for
patterns
sure.
all over the place. They're 21 hours behind, like
Yeah.
it's just that's all of a mess. But also they don't have a manager. They've got to find their own way from the airport to the hotel.
Oh,
from the
okay.
hotel
Yeah.
to like there's a bunch of stuff that Australian Halos never had the support for before, and we've taken all of that into account with what we want to be able to provide for our teams. And then the fact that we're at the first event, it's like, geez, like, we need, and you know what, it's hard because we're not a big organization, even though we have the finances to kind of compete with them, especially when it comes to a team size, like a team scenario. So I feel I'm concerned that we maybe miss out because 343 and Tashi go to these bigger orgs saying, so you're going to have a team compete, right? And then they say to them, well, we're going to pay for the flights and we're going to do whatever. And, because of your following, you could be one of the sponsored Australian teams, and then they've got revenue.
So is it hand selected for the sponsored teams from other regions, or is it qualifier based?
I think it's qualifier based, but I'm not sure how they're going to.
How are you going to do qualifiers for a game that just came out? That's going to be a mess. You're going to have to play qualifiers like the day it comes out.
Well, yeah. And
that sounds, that's terrible.
Yeah,
that's a bad situation.
That's also where it could be a really bad thing about it could be that they might just choose a team they think would win. And that might be, like, again, we don't have a huge social following. I'm working really hard at it, but we don't have a huge social following. There might be a team that has an Australian org that has a really big following, and there's quite a few now, that just picks a team and says, there we go, we're going to send these guys.
Yeah.
And they don't know any different. Like they're stoked to be a part of a really big org. You know what I mean?
For sure.
But they don't realize what they miss out on in the long term by doing that. So, but it's not a big deal.
Well, and hopefully if that's the case for this LAN, maybe it's somewhat understandable just because of the timing. Hopefully for future LANs, we can, like, as a community, explain that it's awesome. You're gonna front like funds to get these teams here, but you have to make it fair, and you have to allow you have to allow people to qualify into it, because just because you're on, and I'll be honest with you, I don't know the big Australian orgs in Halo.
It's fine.
But if just because you're on like X team, which if I named Australian orgs, it's like the ones from Counter-Strike. But if you're on like X team in Australia, like you shouldn't just get auto qualification. Like you should have to still be the best team from the region.
Yeah, for sure. Well, there's we've got maybe 3 capable teams, right? One clearly ahead, the next one clearly ahead, and so there's like a big gap between first and second, and then a big gap between 2 and 3, and then a really big gap between everybody else, right?
Yeah.
But in saying that, this is a brand new game, and what we were saying before about there's going to be people that are placing at this first event that won't be relevant in the next 6 months.
Oh, for sure.
Even though the scene's smaller in Australia, it's like the exact same. It's the same scenario, right? There'll be a bunch of people who can't compete. There'll be a bunch of people that thought they could do it because they did it 10 years ago that can't do it now. And esports is the industry where like you've just got to keep proving yourself constantly. Like it's
one of the coolest things to follow in gaming, in my opinion, is the formation of an esport. What not necessarily like Call of Duty is kind of an outlier because it comes out every year and like the same names stick around. But when a new one sec. Hey, oh. Sorry, my dog's clawing.
It's okay.
Stop. Okay, I apologize for that.
That's all right. She's pretty cute. What type of dog is she?
She's a golden doodle.
Oh, so cute. They're adorable.
She has a really weird thing where she like claws at carpet to lay down. But anyways, like I was saying, one of the coolest things is the kind of foundation of an esport where you see. So I'll use some recent examples just so I'm not talking hypothetical, but like when Overwatch came out or Valorant came out, you have all these people that come into the game. Some of them have previous background from similar games. So like in Valorant's case, you had people coming in from Counter-Strike, but you also had people coming in from Overwatch. You had people coming in for Fortnite, and you have all these people kind of jamming into one game. And you see, like, especially in Valorant's case, right at the start, you saw a lot of prior Counter-Strike players kind of pick up positions on teams and perform well in the scene. But kind of like as the game has progressed, you see more and more people who they didn't play Counter-Strike, or at least didn't play it competitively. They came up on Valorant, right? And that'll be the same thing with Infinite. A lot of these early teams are going to be prior Halo players. They're going to be Halo 5 players. They're going to be Halo 3 players, or just, I mean, those are the two like main competitive games these days. But it's going to be people that have been competing in Halo like previously, and they already have an existing name. People already respect their Halo skill. But what you'll see over the first year and ongoing is some of those people are going to drop out, and they're going to be replaced by people who have never played a Halo game before, have never competed in a Halo game. Maybe they've been playing, especially with it being free to play on PC. That's going to bring in a whole slew of new players that want to compete in a new game. And if they like the game and if it fits their play style, there might be some absolutely disgusting Halo players that 2 years from now that you've never heard of before. They've never touched a Halo game in their life.
I'm counting on it. I really am.
For sure.
I'm hoping so. We're about a little bit over the hour that we kind of we're going to try and stick to, but I have a few questions I want to ask you because we've spoken about it a little bit, but I didn't get much information. You've got some little ones and you're married. Give me the family rundown.
Sure. Yeah. I've been married for I think almost 5 years now. I'm married, and then we have two kids. I have a daughter and a son. Our daughter is like 2.5, and then our son is about like 8 months old. So I have two young ones.
Wow, cool. So you've got your hands full with that as well.
Yeah. So I do most of my stuff kind of at night after they go to bed. I just give up sleep.
Yeah, fair enough. That's the trade-off though, right? For anything.
Yeah.
Sleep is...
I'm terrible at sticking to a sleep schedule anyways. So I imagine even if I wasn't doing YouTube and all that stuff, I would just be sitting around playing on my phone or watching Netflix anyways. I wouldn't actually be getting proper sleep.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. So it may as well be doing something productive.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really awesome. And I like to kind of ask every now and again about like health and fitness and that side of things. Do you do any training, or is that anything that's important to you? Or
it needs to be. No, I used to go to the gym like 4 or 5 times a week prior to COVID, and the gyms all shut down here for a while.
Yeah.
And I kind of let that be an excuse to never go back.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah.
And so I haven't gone back. I mean, I play like with my wife, we play like beach volleyball. But
cool.
it's like a beer league, so it's not like super competitive or anything like that. But other than that, I don't really do a whole lot these days. I need to do more because I need to lose some weight. I've been putting COVID has done a number to my eating habits, and because I just so often now, like, I just sit at home and I just eat.
Yeah.
Like late at night, I'm just playing games. I'm like, you know what? Like, what if I order some McDonald's?
Dude,
and then I do.
I think that is like a trap for gamers because I do exactly. It's way. I used to love Macca's runs when we had to still drive to Macca's. Now we don't even have to drive there.
Yeah, no, yeah, it's bad because I'll be streaming or down here like working on something or just playing. I'm kind of hungry, and it's like, well, I don't even have to leave my desk. I just order it on my phone and it shows up in like 30 minutes.
Isn't that just tragically awesome?
Yeah, it's bad.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome, man. I mean, we've got 2 questions I'd like to kind of finish up with. The first one is, if you looked at yourself like 5 years from now, like a long-term kind of version of you, what's that dream version look like? 5 years now, dream reality for Arrrash.
Ooh, that's far in the future. I mean, in a dream world, I would love to do this full time. I mean, I would love to make videos and stream as a job. Whether or not that's possible, I don't know. And I like with like the way America works, it's not only do I have to be able to front my bills, but I also have to like be able to afford, like if I was to quit my job, because that's how you get health care and retirement benefits and all that, you kind of have to be able to make enough that you can now replace all that too, because you have to go and buy your own health care and you have to set up your own retirement funds and stuff. So it's like you have to it, and it's also you're going into a field that's, I mean, with my job, unless I was to get fired or laid off, like I know every week I'm going to make this much money, right?
Yeah.
With YouTube and Twitch, you never know. Like at any point, the algorithm could change. People could just stop liking you. The game could die. Like all sorts of different like intangibles that you have some control over, but not necessarily nearly as much.
Yeah, I hear you. So it's frustrating. So, but the goal, dream reality would be where you're at a point in 5 years where you've got enough money coming in that you can confidently cover all of those things, look after your family, have the
Yeah,
care, set yourself up for later in life, and be still creating content,
for
gaming.
sure. Yeah, I would love to, and I've I love Halo, and I would still always kind of have a focus in Halo, but I think if we're talking like the 5 year plan, I think a world where there's a little more variety to it, just so you're a little bit more well, I can't think of the word, but you're able to, you can,
Mix.
if something was to happen to Halo, you can play something else, make content on something else too.
Yeah, just have that variety. I think that's a worthwhile thing for any gamer to do. You know, it's hard because like when you're growing, like you said, if you don't play Halo on stream, the numbers dive, right? And it's hard to do that. But I think that's a relevant thing to do every now and again, so that you're still building a following that's like dynamic enough for you to be able to have
Yeah.
that. You know,
Yeah, I think, and this isn't like a surefire path for everyone, but I think when you are growing, it does help to focus on a specific game, or at least like a narrow genre, so
mm,
that you can kind of build up a fan base around that. And then kind of once you hit a certain size, you have a little bit more flexibility to kind of branch out. But the kind of the way YouTube specifically works, anytime you branch out, you're probably going to take a hit in views, and you kind of have to be willing to like power through it and see, because eventually if you get people to watch for you, then you can make stuff on whatever you want.
yeah, yeah.
But at least with Twitch, like as long as they're following you, you'll show up in the bar. So if they're watching for you and not the game, like they'll still click on it. But
Yeah, yeah,
I don't know. Yeah.
yeah.
It's
I hear what you're
I
saying.
think that's the struggle like every content creator runs into. Well, plus like when Infinite comes out, like I'm not gonna want to play other stuff. Like I'm gonna want to play Infinite anyway, so it won't be a problem. But like 3-4 years down the line, like you're gonna want to have a break from Infinite every now and then. Like currently, I want a break from MCC.
Yeah, yeah.
Like like playing MCC. Like don't get me wrong, I love the games in the collection, but I've played enough of them.
Yeah, I know what you're saying, 100%. Last question that I like to ask is obviously I reached out to you without somebody suggesting, but on every other episode of the podcast, I asked somebody for you to think of someone who you'd recommend that I probably wouldn't have general contact with, that you think would be good to have on the podcast, that adds some value and can kind of keep the conversation going. Is there anyone that comes to mind? Can be in the Halo scene, can be in esports, can be whatever. It doesn't have to be, anything in particular. Is there anyone that comes to
Sure.
mind?
Yeah. So there's a YouTuber, and he's been around for a long time, by the name of BBK Dragoon.
Okay.
Have you spoken to him before?
I haven't.
I think he does variety, like mostly FPS games, but there's always been like a core focus on Halo for his channel. And
Hmm.
he's been someone I followed for a long time. I think he would have some really cool insights into just creation on YouTube, since he's been doing it for a long time.
Yeah. So we would have seen
So
as it changed and the right
yeah.
it's
Yeah,
taken.
he's definitely, I just from watching his channel, I've only talked to him like a handful of times, but yeah, he's definitely like seen the waves of YouTube, right? He's seen the big booms, and he's probably seen the big dips too. So it
Yeah.
might be interesting to talk to someone like him, because I know he works full time, and so he does YouTube kind of on the side, and I think he not necessarily always has, because I maybe in the past he had more time for it when he was in school and stuff. But yeah, anyways, I think he'd be a cool person to
Cool.
talk to.
Yeah, awesome. Well, I will. I'll send him as much as I need to try and get in contact with him, and then get him on and have a really good conversation. But We went, I think again, I mean, I have this issue with so many people on the podcast as we start talking, and because we've got such a good common interest in gaming, we could talk for hours and hours.
Yeah.
And we've been in this call now for an hour and 47 minutes, right? Like it's not often you meet someone for the first time, you sit down and chat for an hour and 50 minutes. So I really appreciate the fact that you took the time to come and chat with me, and I really hope that your audience values and enjoys getting to see a little bit more, getting to know you a little bit more as well. But everybody that's watched the episode, if you've made it this far through and you're still listening, I really appreciate your viewership and consuming the content, because that's what's really important for us as content creators, is knowing that there's somebody out there, even if it's one or two people, that are appreciating what we're doing. And so thank you again so much. Make sure you leave a comment and let me know what you thought of the episode. If you've got any feedback on things that you want me to try and improve on and bring into future episodes. And also, obviously, the most important thing is that links to all of Arrash's content is going to be in the description to the video. So if you're not already watching him, make sure you go down there, you click on all of those links, you go show him some love, and we help him to get close to that 5-year goal of being able to stream full time and have the financial freedom to do it. So yeah,
There we go. Yeah, well,
thank you
thank
so
you
much.
for having thank you for having me on, man. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's good to be able to have a bit of a chat and go through it, but I'm sure we'll touch base and work on a few other things together outside of like with Halo Infinite coming up. So, I'll even try and catch a few games if we get a chance on the weekend or something with you as well. So, thanks again so much, man. I really appreciate it. To everybody watching, I'll see you on the next episode of the podcast.
Goodbye.